Oh Lord, protector of the helpless, save my honor now.
The Mahabharata ends in total annihilation. Millions of soldiers and godlike heroes clash until the ruling Kuru dynasty is wiped out. But if you trace this apocalypse back to its origin, the architect of the destruction is not a towering warrior. He is a physically unimposing man holding a pair of dice. To understand him, we have to look away from the wealthy center of the empire. These dry, ancient stone ruins are the remnants of Gandhara, a subjugated kingdom on the periphery. This was the home of a prince named Shakuni. The original Sanskrit epic describes Shakuni as the literal incarnation of Dwapara, a divine entity of chaos born to destroy righteousness. But centuries of Jain and Odia folklore ground his motivations in severe human trauma. According to these regional legends, the Kuru Empire imprisoned Shakuni's entire royal family, tossing them into a dungeon with barely enough food to survive. Realizing they would all slowly starve, his father and brothers made a brutal calculation. They surrendered their own daily rations to keep a single person alive, Shakuni, the sharpest mind among them. He watched his family die in that cell. The folklore claims that when his father passed, Shakuni made a vow of absolute vengeance, carving his primary weapon directly from his dead father's remains. This historical artifact shows the long bone structure of ancient dice, marked with carved concentric circles. For Shakuni, it became the ultimate symbol of his grief. So the question becomes, how does a traumatized captive dismantle a ruling dynasty of untouchable demigods using nothing but his intellect? When Shakuni's sister, Gandhari, married the blind Kuru king, she permanently blindfolded herself in devotion. Shakuni moved into the palace at Hastinapur, stepping in to serve as a surrogate, protective maternal uncle to her 100 children. This placed him in a unique position of influence over the next generation of rulers. While the rival Pandava cousins received guidance from the righteous, honorable figure of Krishna, seen here in blue calmly steering the chariot, the Kaurava faction grew up under the cynical mentorship of Shakuni. He systematically conditioned his eldest nephew, Duryodhana. As the Pandavas gained wealth and fame in their half of the kingdom, Shakuni actively fed Duryodhana's jealousy, twisting a standard succession dispute into an obsessive, all-consuming resentment. The epic describes this dynamic with a specific metaphor. Duryodhana is the tree of wrath, while Shakuni serves as the branches. Shakuni provided the structure, giving shape and direction to the young prince's anger. Shakuni recognized a simple truth: the Kauravas would lose any open, honorable combat against the Pandava brothers. To win, he needed to shift the conflict entirely away from martial strength and rely purely on psychological manipulation. He found his mechanism in a parlor game. By challenging the Pandavas to a game of dice, Shakuni moved the battlefield from an arena where his side was weak to a table where he was absolute master. He had identified a fatal vulnerability in Yudhishthira, the eldest Pandava, a deep passion for gambling paired with genuinely terrible strategic skills. Shakuni convinced the Kuru elders to let him play as Duryodhana's proxy. To the observers in the room, he was simply playing a game of chance. In reality, he used his grandmaster skills to execute targeted, systematic theft, disguising foul play as luck. Over a grueling match of 20 throws, the devastation was total. Yudhishthira lost his wealth, his servants, his ancestral kingdom, the freedom of his brothers, and finally his wife Draupadi. A subsequent round forced the Pandavas into a 13-year exile. Without drawing a single sword, Shakuni weaponized the empire's own rules against itself. He legally stripped an invincible royal family of its power and succession rights. Those decades of cynical political engineering, eventually culminated in the Kurukshetra War. As this intricate stone relief shows, the conflict was an overwhelming physical manifestation of Shakuni's strategy, a chaotic meat grinder of chariots and archers. Shakuni actively fought on this battlefield, and true to form, he completely ignored the rules of warrior honor. He deployed elaborate illusion tricks, relied on deceit, and orchestrated aggressive cavalry charges against the Pandava lines. But his absolute control finally shattered on the 18th day of fighting. From across the blood-soaked field, Shakuni watched the youngest Pandava, Sahadeva, decapitate his son, Uluka. The cold, calculating exterior dissolved. Watching his son die triggered the old trauma of losing his family in the Gandhara dungeons. After decades of precise strategic restraint, his grief finally overwhelmed his logic. For the first and only time, Shakuni abandoned his cynical distance. In pure rage, he launched a solitary, aggressive charge directly at Sahadeva. The attack was totally reckless, and Sahadeva immediately severed his head with a broad-headed arrow. Shakuni died in the dirt, but his long-term objective was fully realized. By the time the war ended, millions were dead, and the mighty Kuru dynasty was effectively annihilated. He proved that an era defined by honorable heroes could be completely dismantled from within. The mind of a traumatized, patient strategist acting in the shadows proved far more dangerous than the sword of any demigod.